Congratulations, you've booked your accommodation, you're all set to go on your trip. But the fact that there's this module and another one afterwards, we're not done, we're not finished. There is a bit more work to do. And yeah, this whole module is about planning for the trip. So obviously we've done the research and planning for the accommodation, and this whole course is about accessible accommodation. But I guess there were some considerations depending on how accessible the accommodation is that you may or may not need to pack certain things to facilitate your trip to be better. And even with the most awesome, amazing accessible accommodation, you're still probably going to need to pack certain things beyond the sunscreen and the passport, which other holiday makers would be doing. Obviously, if you stay in the UK, you wouldn't need, if you're living in the UK and you stay in the UK, you wouldn't need a passport and you may not need the sunscreen. But you get my point that there are the general holiday stuff, but I think there are disability specifics. And so, as always, I just try and give my own examples, just it may not be your personal needs and your personal checklist. That's what you'll create later in this module. But I guess just hearing from me about the way I've navigated and think about this, it might just open up new ideas and, as we've said, some strategies for you as well. So really for me, I would say now I kind of know what I'm going to need on any given trip, sort of off by heart, like quite, the big things in advance, I'm already clear on what they are. But if you are doing a trip for one of the first times, don't leave this till a day before or a week before, because you may need to arrange some things that actually could take longer, whether that's medical related. We've got a dog, so for example, that might not be directly about my disability, but we had to sort out some vaccines for our dog, and that wasn't something that we could have just done, so on the last day, although there has been that moment happened as well. There's a reality to this, right? But ultimately, don't leave the planning till the last day or the last week. Almost as soon as you booked it, you can start thinking about a little bit about the planning. Doesn't mean you need to obsess every day for a year and stress yourself out either. It's just having a framework and a checklist that whatever needs to be in hand is in hand, and it actually enables you to chill out and relax knowing that everything is in hand. So the main resource I use, and I definitely recommend for you in this module, is a checklist. So over time, I've just written down the things that I always need to make sure I pack. So it means that a day or two before, I'm remembering to charge the travel hoist or charge my spare wheelchair, which I fly with. I never fly with my current wheelchair. So there's that kind of, are all the appliances charged kind of checklist would be a day or two before. In fact, even a month before, I'd check both of them, because if they're broken or not working, that's going to take longer to get them fixed than a day or a week. And then, other things would be I have, and this is like really sharing my personal situation and experience, but I have a knee pad between my knees when I sleep, so my knees don't get sore when they press together. So I always, I've never known an accommodation to have a knee pad that I need. And there's a whole other conversation about what could accommodations do more for disabled people, and there's a lot that I think hotel rooms and accessible cottage rooms could start to do more for us. But there's probably always going to be certain things that we have very, very specifically that you wouldn't expect the business to know about or think about. So my knee pad, my sling, which is obviously measured for me, my personal sling. I have a slip sheet to help my PAs to help me turn at night. So they're all on my checklist. There's other things like shampoo and aftershave and those kind of things as well. So it doesn't have to only be the disability stuff. It's just that general packing checklist. So that you can just get that out. I've got it on my phone, and I can then, when I've got the suitcase out, I'm starting to pack the clothes and other bits and bobs. I'm just making sure that nothing gets forgotten. And then I'll look at that checklist the morning, or it could be the afternoon, but before you get in the car or the taxi and head off to the airport or the destination, I have another look at that. And I've even done that where there's things that I needed to pack the morning of because obviously I'd used them overnight. So yeah, just I look at that checklist 2 or 3 times. And I always try and give a bit of an example, don't I? Remembering myself here. So I would say that one of the examples to give around this is when I go to Poland every summer because my partner is from Poland. So at least once a year for almost 10 years we've gone. And most of the time we've driven there, not flown. And that's because we found it really hard to get a hire vehicle or an accessible taxi in Poland. And even where they've started to have a little bit more provision of accessible vehicles, there's still a cost that's a lot for like a 3-week trip. So that's the reason we take the vehicle from the UK. We have to stop off in a hotel halfway because it's 2 solid days of driving. I've also taken a boat, which again is another thing you can probably check out on my Instagram if you want to see a bit more about why I took a boat trip and how that worked. But for the relevance of accommodation, the relevance now of packing and checklisting, there's certain things I know I'm going to need in the hotel in Germany. There's certain things I'm going to need for the 3 weeks at my partner's parents. And so, yeah, having that checklist to go is really important. But also don't forget coming home. So when we're getting ready to leave my partner's parents and things have maybe got a bit scattered around the house or whatever, the checklist is really important to make sure we don't leave something that's going to then, affect the time back with another trip, the hotel trip in Germany, and then obviously getting back home safely as well. So there's not as much to talk about specifics of the packing within the context of the trip, but I will just add in terms of general inspiration, Poland is an amazing place. I've met so many lovely people through my partner's family and friends, and just in the country that's very hospitable. Like everywhere you go, people want to make sure you're well fed and got enough to drink. And yeah, just really a lot about that being together and enjoying good food. And we sometimes have fires in the garden as well, which is always a lot of fun, and a bit of music as well. So yeah, just a little bit the inspiring reasons to go through the checklist example. But ultimately the nuts and bolts is this checklist, which we're going to move on now so that you can start getting going with your own checklist.